I'm going to try to do something different at the start of my videos now. I'm going to start show a quote of the day to spread, positivity, some encouragement, just some positive vibes. I'm sure we could all use some positivity and some encouragement. So today's quote of the day goes as, life's a journey best traveled with a smile and a kind heart. Embrace each moment and cherish the connections you make along the way. That was the quote of the day. Now let's get into the video. So this week's episode of Smackdown was honestly, it had a few entertaining moments. It had a few, good segments, but outside of those entertaining moments and segments, it was honestly just an average show, nothing crazy or just average run of the mill show. Like nothing crazy happened. There was like no major, story advancements or nothing, It had a few good moments, a few entertaining moments here and there, but that was about it though. So let's just get down into the review and the breakdown of what happened. So the show, we started off with an LA Knight in-ring promo. And honestly, this first, segment of the show was pretty lackluster. It was like a pretty lackluster opening. I feel like you should open with something stronger, something better. And especially if you're talking about someone, like my issue with WWE nowadays is that like they start off with a promo, and like you have someone in the ring, they're cutting a promo like tonight, LA Knight was cutting a promo on Seth Rollins, but Seth Rollins was nowhere in sight, nowhere to be found to respond or react. Like that kind of defeats the purpose of the promo, at least have the competitors that are cutting promos against each other, there in attendance or something like that at least. But anyhow, though, let's just get into what happened and what was said. So we started off with LA Knight in the ring. LA Knight grabs the mic and he says, "Let me talk to you." Yeah. Right. So he says, he calls Seth Rollins desperate. He calls Seth Rollins washed. He says Seth Rollins is a desperate, washed man. He has a troop of goons. That's what he said. He has a troop of goons. A goon troop. That's what he called it. His exact words were that Seth Rollins had a goon troop. Anyhow, though, LA Knight says that Seth Rollins had Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed try to take him out because Seth Rollins couldn't do it himself. That's why he had to go and get help. LA Knight says that he wants justice and he wants Seth Rollins' dignity, but most importantly, he wants to hurt Seth Rollins. In that main event this Saturday, that's what he will do. He's going to hurt Seth Rollins and he's going to get justice and he's going to take Seth Rollins' dignity, and that's what he says. And after this, though, we get a interruption from the man himself. "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman." Paulie comes out, right? Paul Heyman comes out. Paul Heyman says, "Besides being outlandishly good looking, I can also see into the future. However, I see no LA Knight in the future. I see no future for LA Knight because LA Knight doesn't have a future at all." Paul Heyman then calls himself an oracle and stuff like that, but yeah. After that, though, Paul Heyman doesn't really say much of anything else because he gets interrupted by Solo and his MFTs, which stands for My Family Tree, I think that's what they said. Yeah, so Solo comes out with his MFTs. So he comes out with, Solo Sikoa, JC Mateo, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, Tala Tonga, Chimichanga, Lakers and 5. So he comes out with his MFTs. Solo tells Paul Heyman that, "I advise you to leave right now before you get hurt, If you don't leave right now, I remember what you did to me in my bloodline, in my family. If you don't leave right now, you're going to get hurt and something bad's going to happen to you." And then Paul Heyman scurries out of the arena, well, supposedly. Then he gives LA Knight the same message. She tells LA Knight he better leave too, because if he doesn't leave, LA Knight will not be able to ever walk again. And I was like, okay. I kind of like the animosity, but yeah, he says if LA Knight doesn't leave right now, LA Knight will never be able to walk again. After this, LA Knight acts like he's going to walk out the ring. Then he says, "Nope, I don't think the people want me to leave. So if you want me to get out the ring, you're going to have to take me out the ring. You're going to have to remove me from the ring." And then a big brawl ensues. And then Jimmy Uso comes to aid of LA Knight with a steel chair. And Jimmy Uso and LA Knight, those two by themselves with a steel chair, end up clearing out Solo Sikoa and his MFTs, the whole group. And I'm like, it's kind of crazy how a group of 5 men can't defeat 2 guys by themselves with a chair. Come on, man. Whatever, though. But this was just to set up our main event for tonight, and the main event was a tag team match. It was Solo Sikoa and JC Mateo versus Jimmy Uso and LA Knight. And I heard the announcement for that. I'm like, man, this isn't going to be exciting. And I was right. It wasn't really exciting at all. We already knew what was going to happen. And I'm like, this is the main event? Really? Nothing on the line? No, nothing? And the results of that main event was even more atrocious. But anyhow, after this, though, we got to our first match of the night. It was a women's fatal 4-way match. And it was the women tag team that are going to be involved in the Evolution tag team match. So they had one member from each team face off, and it was a fatal 4-way. So we had Sol Ruka from NXT versus Alexa Bliss versus Roxanne Perez versus Kairi Sane. And this was a pretty entertaining match, and the in-ring action was pretty good as well. There was quite a few cool spots that happened in this match. So some highlights from this match were that Sol Ruka hit a springboard double missile drop kick. Sol Ruka hit a cartwheel splash over the top ropes, which looked amazing. Kairi Sane hit a top rope flying forearm. We saw, that customary triple threat, quadruple threat, fatal four-way spot where there was like a superplex, where everybody's on the top rope and somebody at the bottom superplexes all of them off it or power bombs all of them off the top of the rope. We got that spot again for the pop. After that, Kairi Sane hit a off the top rope double stomp. Sol Ruka hit a double soul snatcher. That's her finisher, and it looks really good. She hit a double soul snatcher on two different women, which look good at the same time too, might I add. And after this happens, Raquel Rodriguez, Zarya, and Asuka and Charlotte Flair start brawling on the outside. They were outside of the ring, just supporting their teammates and stuff like that, and a huge brawl breaks out between them. Alexa Bliss uses the distraction to hit a Sister Abigail DDT on Kairi Sane for the win, and that's how the match ends. Charlotte Flair's and Alexa Bliss's team wins, I guess. And I really do like their dynamic, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. Charlotte is calling Alexa Bliss Blister. Alexa Bliss calls Charlotte Your Highness, stuff like that. I like it, Charlotte is trying to pretend like she's not, up for the whole team idea. She doesn't like Alexa Bliss, but slowly but surely, Charlotte is slowly coming around and starting to see the vision. She's starting to become a part of the team, and it's kind of breaking away from her queen character that she's had for so long. This is a breath of fresh air for Charlotte, and I'm really liking the direction they're going. It's starting to grow on me. But after this, though, we got to our second match of the night. It was the Street Profits versus the Wyatt Six for the tag team championships. This match was pretty solid, but this match did get carried a lot more by the Street Profits than the Wyatt Six. The Street Profits, that tag team overall is a lot more athletic than the Wyatt Six, The Street Profits did overall carry this match, but it was a solid match overall. So some highlights from this match were that Dawkins hit a pop-up spinebuster, Montez Ford hit a off-the-top rope sunset flip powerbomb, Angelo Dawkins hit an over-the-top rope front flip splash. He's a big man, so that always looks good. The Wyatt Six hit a tag team neckbreaker. Wyatt Six hit a tag team powerbomb move. The Street Profits hit a blockbuster, which is their finisher, and that ended up getting kicked out of, and which was pretty cool. They're like, oh, nobody's ever kicked out of it. I think you said something along that point. Or oh, that usually puts every tag team away. They said that, So that move usually puts all the tag teams away, but this time it didn't. After that, though, Montez Ford hit a splash from the heavens, from the heaven splash, which looked amazing as always. Eric Rowan ended up getting involved, and while the referee was distracted, he ended up pulling Angelo Dawkins out of the ring. Angelo Dawkins then ended up, attacking Eric Rowan, clearing him out. I think he smashed him through a barricade or something. And then the Wyatt Six uses this distraction to hit their tag team finisher on Montez Ford for the win. And the Wyatt Six are your new tag team champions. And honestly, I'm not too mad at it. I don't care either way. All the belts at this point don't mean much. They're just getting hot potatoed around, passed around, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just glad, something's happening with them in that division. And I hope the Wyatt Six don't get the belt and just disappear for weeks and don't defend it. I hope they actually make them show up and defend it and have good storylines. But anyhow, though, after this, we got a really entertaining segment. I think it was probably the most entertaining part of the night. We got a Jelly Roll live performance. And to avoid copyright, I'm just going to have to sing this whole portion, a cappella. I'm gonna have to go a cappella, remake that whole performance. I don't want you guys to miss out on anything, so I'm just gonna, sing this whole performance. I'm gonna reenact it, re-sing it, just like how Jelly Roll did it, but I'll be doing it a cappella, raw vocals, So if you don't mind, no, I'm kidding. Maybe another time. All jokes aside, though, Jelly Roll looked amazing, I think he's on a weight loss journey. He lost a couple pounds, so he looks amazing. He looks in shape, or more healthy anyway. And I think that's what he was going for. So Jelly Roll looked amazing, and I'm happy for him. And his performance was really cool as well. It was awesome. His vocals were hitting, and everything was on point, honestly. And I've heard quite a handful of Jelly Roll songs, so I am familiar with him. I know what he's able to do. His vocals, his performances, they're always good. So this one was good as well. But anyways, though, while Jelly Roll is performing, he gets interrupted by Logan Paul. Logan Paul comes out of nowhere, and he gets on the mic, and he says, I'm tired of all these social media influencers, celebrities, and internet personalities coming into our sacred ring, trying to steal our spotlight and trying to take our clout, and they're clout chasing. And I found this pretty funny because this is everything that they said to Logan Paul when he first came in. He's calling Jelly Roll an internet influencer. He's calling him like, a celebrity that's coming into our sacred ring and stealing our spotlight and trying to cloud chase. I was like, really? I found that pretty funny, coming from Logan Paul anyway. After this, though, Randy Orton comes out. He's defending Jelly Roll. He's going off on Logan Paul. Like, his face is turning as red as a tomato. Like, Randy Orton, I'm like, dude, take a breath. Veins are popping out of his neck. Veins are popping out of his forehead. I'm like, breathe. I'm over here breathing for Randy while I'm watching the show. I'm like, because this man was turning red, dude. But anyhow, though, while Randy Orton is going off on Logan Paul, out of nowhere, Drew McIntyre comes in and he Claymore kicks Randy Orton. He attacks him. And then after he attacks him, he leaves the ring. Logan Paul goes to pick at the bones of Randy Orton. Then Jelly Roll comes and he attacks Logan Paul. He tosses Logan Paul like across the ring, which was pretty cool. And this was a pretty fun segment. Logan Paul then gets mad. He gets out of the ring. He starts smashing Jelly Roll's equipment, like the speakers, the drums, the keyboard, piano, guitar, everything. He's going off. And I found this part of the show was really entertaining. This was probably like maybe the most entertaining part of the show, honestly. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. The singing, everything, the promos, the intensity, even Logan Paul's promo, it was great. After this, though, we got our third match of the night. It was a really quick match. It was R-Truth, our Ron Killings Truth versus Aleister Black. And this was a pretty quick match. I think it was like maybe 5 minutes at most. But with that being said, though, nonetheless, R-Truth looked pretty good in the ring. He looked quick. He looked nimble, especially for his age, because R-Truth is getting up there in age too. He's starting to be like one of the older guys. I think R-Truth is like, I don't know, maybe he's older than John Cena, so like he's in his 50s and stuff like that. And the way he moves in the ring is really impressive. He's nimble, he's quick, he's efficient. It looks good, and like some of the moves he pulls out, I'm like, dude, be careful, Anyhow, though, some highlights from this match were that R-Truth started off really aggressive. Like I said, he hit some like flying spinning kicks, some corner splash moves, some tornado shoulder tackles. Aleister Black ended up getting some good offense of his own, his leg strikes, his, like Tai Jutsu or whatever. No, that's Naruto. His, whatever it's called, Muay Thai, I don't know, his kicks, his kickboxing background, whatever. He got some like kicks off and stuff like that. And R-Truth ended up getting like a steel chair in the ring. And Aleister Black fell for the bait. He picked up the steel chair. The ref had to pull it out of his arms. And while the ref is pulling the steel chair out of Aleister Black's hand, R-Truth rolls Aleister Black up, with a schoolboy roll up, and he picks up the win. And this leaves Aleister Black fuming, so he follows R-Truth. R-Truth, like, he gets the roll up, he gets one, he just walks out, doesn't celebrate or anything. So I'm like, R-Truth ended up outsmarting Aleister Black, which was pretty cool. But as R-Truth is walking out of the ring, he's making a beeline for the back. He doesn't care. He got his win and he's done for the night. He's driving now. He hits the backstage area. Aleister Black is following him, pretty close behind him. Aleister Black ends up running into Damian Priest. Damian Priest says, yo, what are you doing? You lost. It was fair and square. What are you doing? I understand you're mad, but like, you can't do this. You can't go attacking him. He beat you. And then Aleister Black is like, you know what? Fine. You're right. He walks away. Then he says, Damian. Boom. He hits Damian Priest with a knee right in the mouth, and he viciously attacks Damian Priest. He beats up Damian Priest backstage, and I think he tells Damian Priest to stay out of his business, and now he's good, and now he's okay. So I think this is setting up a Damian Priest versus Aleister Black rivalry, which should be pretty cool, which should be pretty entertaining. After this, though, we got a Trish Stratus and Tiffany Stratton in-ring promo. And this was so bad that I'm just going to skip it overall. This was bad. This was boring. This was trash. This was garbage. This was so hard to get through. This was not as bad as the one last Friday with Jay Cargill and stuff like that. But this one was up there too with the worst promos I've ever heard. This one was bad. It was missing intensity. It was missing charisma. It was missing everything, man. This was bad. This was just a waste of time, honestly. And I'm just going to move on. Some key highlights that happened were that Naomi ended up coming out and she got attacked by Jay Cargill, and that was it. Besides that, though, this whole segment, this whole promo, this was trash. This was, oh my lord, this was bad. So after this terrible, in-ring promo, in-ring segment, we got to the main event of the night. It was Jimmy Uso and LA Knight versus Solo Sikoa and JC Mateo. And this was your standard match, nothing crazy. It was just a normal tag team match, honestly. And it started off really, really, really slow because I was bored like for the first half. And I'm like, dude, this is the main event? I was really bored for the first half. There's not even too many highlights, just a few things that happened. So the things that I liked about this match, like the highlights I saw, was that LA Knight hit a big elbow drop, Jimmy Uso hit a big top rope splash, Solo Sikoa hit a mean looking spinning solo. Near the end of the match, LA Knight ended up getting a big boot to the face by Tala Tunga, the new member, the big dude. He hits LA Knight in the face with a big boot. And Jimmy Uso uses this distraction while LA Knight is getting attacked. He uses the moment where LA Knight's getting attacked, that distraction, to roll up Solo Sikoa for the win. And like how R-Truth won, he won with a schoolboy roll up as well. He rolls up Solo Sikoa for the win. And I'm like, you had JC Mateo there and stuff like that. And why do you have Solo Sikoa losing 2 weeks in a row clean at that? Like that's like, he's the US champion. He's supposed to be like the head of this new group. He's supposed to be in charge. He's supposed to be the leader. Why is he eating pins every week? Like, that's not sitting right with me, because he doesn't look strong at all. He just looks goofy. And then Paul Heyman did end up coming out near the end of this match too. He was on the phone calling for a backup. So after all that happens, LA Knight ends up coming back in the ring. He hits Solo Sikoa with a BFT. And then after he hits Solo Sikoa with a BFT, out of nowhere, Braun Breaker comes out and Bronson Reed comes out. They jump LA Knight. They hit him with a spear, hit him with a tsunami, and they leave LA Knight laying in the middle of the ring. And that's how the whole show ends, with LA Knight getting attacked once again by Seth Rollins' friends, Seth and friends. He gets attacked by the Goons. He gets attacked by Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, the Bronze. And that's how the show ends. And that was your whole show. That was the whole thing. I'm like I said, there was a few entertaining segments, then that was it. Like, a few entertaining moments, a few entertaining spots, but that was it overall. Besides those entertaining spots and moments, the show was overall just average. Overall, though, I'd rate this show a solid 5 out of 10, maybe 6 out of 10. I'm going to keep it at a 5 out of 10. This show was a 5 out of 10. I'd rate this show a 5 out of 10. It was pretty mid, like I said. It was pretty mid outside of a few segments and a few spots. This week wasn't anything crazy. Like I said, no storyline developments, no huge moments, nothing that's going to change the show. Like, if you missed this show, if you skipped this show, you didn't miss anything. If you skipped it, it would have been completely okay. You wouldn't have missed anything. Nothing changed except for the tag team championships that don't mean anything at this point. That was it. This show was like your run-of-the-mill, normal standard show. I can't even call it a normal show, because normal shows are usually better than this. It was an average show. That's what it was. It was an average SmackDown episode. That's all. But anyhow, though, that was my review of this week's episode of SmackDown. That was my whole spiel about it. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. Like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to. And like, comment, and subscribe if you choose to. As always, it's been a pleasure. I'm out.